For more on the Blazers and this upcoming game, we are now joined by Brian Wheeler, radio voice for the Portland Trail Blazers. And Wheels, before we get to the Laker game, I want to get your thoughts on the double overtime performance we saw from both these teams in the Moda Center last night.
Yeah, a crazy game and certainly exciting. And, I always love to say after a game like that, it's a wonderful game for fans and so forth. But bottom line, it always just doesn't seem quite as wonderful when you don't find a way to win the game. And unfortunately, the Blazers up by 5 in the second overtime thought they were in a pretty good position to do so. And then a couple of three-pointers from Kentavious Caldwell-Pope ended up being the difference. And so the Pistons, after not having a whole lot of success against the Blazers for a lot of years in Portland, now 2 straight seasons have beaten them at Moda Center, and Reggie Jackson a big reason why again. And so great win for the Pistons, that's for sure, to start their road trip. And for the Blazers, I know Damian said all the right things afterwards about, they feel they're playing well and just maybe not always getting the reward for what they're doing. But they're going to have to start getting those rewards because they don't want to have too many more losses pile up here because, the way the West is, you can't afford to fall too far behind. And fortunately, they've got, a whole half a season plus another game or two to rectify things. But I think they'd like to do things, get things back going in the right direction on a little more permanent basis sooner rather than later.
I'm looking at this box score here, Wheels, and I see CJ played 44 minutes, Dame with 43 minutes, Allen Crabbe with roughly 43 minutes. But you, my friend, you went all 58 minutes. How do you feel towards the end of a double overtime game when there's just so much energy and emotion every single minute? It seemed like the final 2 overtimes.
I was fine energy-wise. The only thing that was getting to be a little bit of an issue had we gone any further was, there was some nature was calling in some respects, and I don't know. There's the legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster of the L.A. Kings, Bob Miller, told me once that he was doing a game in Philadelphia, and normally his partner would go down and do a between periods interview, but they had technical problems, so he had to do the interview, and it didn't give him a chance to make his trip to take care of Mother Nature during the between period situation. So during the next period, as he was calling the game, all of a sudden he said things were getting a little anxious, and he actually saw a couple of cups on the table, and just made some adjustments on the fly, and he said his partner didn't even know what happened, and he told his partner after the game, and his partner said, "Oh gosh, if I'd known that you were even in that position of trying to hold back, I would have said things like, oh, the puck dribbled off his stick, or it trickled across the goal line or something." Would have said some suggestive words to make it even tougher for you, but he said no. He said I managed to do it. He said the only problem was when he was using the first cup, about halfway through, he said, one cup's not going to be enough, and he actually had to reach for a second one. He's doing all this while he's still calling the play-by-play, so it's a remarkable achievement. Of his many achievements over the years, I thought that was pretty exceptional. But I haven't ever gotten to that point, but I think had we gotten to be 3 or 4 overtimes, it might have been an issue. So that was the only problem I was having once we got to the end of the second overtime.
Well, you were certainly very well conditioned, and yeah, you certainly held it down for the double overtime game, and we always appreciate that. And just, you look at the outcome of this game, and there's so many great performances. Allen Crabbe with his career high, CJ with the big shots, Dame with the big first half, and Mason with his near triple-double. And as we finally kind of put a cap on it, what will you remember the most? What stands out to you the most from this game against the Pistons that Portland can now carry over into their matchup against the Lakers?
Well, again, I think CJ was exceptional again, and so I think there was probably an assumption that as soon as Damian came back that maybe CJ would defer a little bit, and Damian would be the leading scorer again as he has really for all the time that the two of them have been together. But I think it was nice to see that CJ still was aggressive, still was looking for his shot, and I thought Damian in the second half and in the overtime periods, of course, he didn't score in those situations. I thought even though he was playing the minutes, I still thought he looked like he was a little tired, and it looked like his shot wasn't quite as efficient as it normally is. So it was nice that CJ was there, nice that Allen Crabbe was able to do what he did, and Mason Plumlee, of course, the near triple-double that he posted. The only thing that concerns me, guys, continuing to concern me, is that last night ends up being yet another game in this scenario. 8 times now this season, the Blazers have scored 111 points or more and lost. Last year, 5 was the grand total for the entire season in that situation. So that still tells me they're scoring enough points to win on a lot of nights, and aren't posting victories in situations when they should be. So, I realize in a double overtime game, points are going to be, high, but again, I think it still shows that as much as they're making progress defensively, there's still more progress that still needs to be made, because 111 points, and in a lot of cases more than that, last night 13 points more than that, that's enough to win most games on most nights for most teams. And if you're a good team, I think you have to post victories in those situations. So 8 times now, when you take a look at their record, I mean, if you even cut that down to 4, all of a sudden that record looks a little bit better than it does. So I still think that's an area that they continue to need to have to work on going forward.
Wills, you make a really good point about playing really well enough to win and coming up short. I think back to the Sacramento game when the Trailblazers shot 50%, scored 121 points, and didn't come away with a win. And so when we're watching the team's growth and development offensively, really be on track. I mean, I look at Evan Turner and his role and his comfort. I look at Allen Crabbe and his career high. You kind of go down the list. Maurice Harkless, I think, is having a very solid season. There's no questions about Dame or CJ. I look at Mason Plumlee. So you can go down the list offensively about the weapons that this team has. My question to you is, when you look at what's going on defensively with the Blazers, I think they started the season really with a more conservative but solid defense. We've seen trapping as of late. And what we saw in the overtime game, which was kind of new, I thought, was offense-defensive subbing late in the game with CJ and with Dame. What direction do you think Terry Stotts is headed in with the defense with this team?
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that he's been willing to to be flexible and to look at other things, and I think I saw a stat today that said since Chief has come back, that the Blazers' defensive rating, and there's so many of these out there, but at least one of the key defensive ratings has really gone up. I think it was 25th before he got the string of games now that he's been able to play since returning from his latest injury, and I think it's now they're up to 8th in terms of this particular defensive rating. So it definitely shows that that his presence is a key, and he ended up playing 37 minutes last night. I still think he's rounding into shape, but I thought last night was his best offensive game probably since he came back. His best shooting game, certainly 7 of 10 from the field, and able to hit three-pointer, hit 2 key baskets in the second overtime, and still was able to deliver as well on the boards with 8 rebounds too. So I like what he's been able to do. And again, I think it's I think the other thing that Terry we're seeing that he's doing is kind of adjusting from game to game in terms of what big guys he's playing off the bench. So last night just wasn't a night that Ed Davis fit. So Meyers got a chance to play 18 minutes. But tomorrow night against the Lakers might be a game that is more suited for Ed Davis. So I think he's maybe it's a way of saying that he isn't getting all he wants from any one of these particular guys. So he's kind of doing a situational matchup thing, and depending on who the opponent is, that one particular big maybe has the chance to play. So it's an opportunity for these guys to still get time, but I think if I'm one of them, I'm saying, boy, if I could put some consistent performances together, then maybe I can get regular playing time again. But I think he's doing what he can to try to put the best lineup out there. But again, I don't think they have to worry. Most nights it seems like they're not going to have to worry about enough points to score. They just have to figure out a way. And again, I don't think they need to become the old bad boy Pistons in terms of defensive prowess. But if they could just find a way to get back to middle of the pack, even in terms of defense in the league in the rankings, I think that they score enough points that they're going to win on most nights if they can even have that much defensive improvement, which I don't think is too much to ask for.
So, Wills, let me try to slow down and ask you this question, because I just heard you say it, and I'm going to kind of paraphrase it and say it back to you in question form, right? So the bigs are playing, I think, situationally in terms of matchups and in terms of the scheme the Trailblazers are going to employ, whether, one big plays versus another big. And so kind of a question that coaches always tend to ask other coaches, or ask when they watch other coaches' teams play, is, do players have to play more and then they play better, or do they have to play better to play more?
Probably depends on who you're asking, right? If you ask the player, he probably says, I need to play more, But if you ask the coach, I'm sure he's saying, well, they need to show me more. So there's probably a middle ground there somewhere. But, I've always been of the belief, and maybe, I think you'll probably find some people. I think Meyers Leonard is kind of a polarizing figure. You'll find some people that really believe in what he can do. You'll find others that are disappointed that he's not maybe more consistent, that he teases you sometimes with what his abilities are. But I think he has just a lot of very unique skill sets, and I always say that it just seems like this team is more effective when he's doing some good things, and whether that's hitting three-point shots and spreading the floor. I think, the analytics suggest that Damian and CJ get better looks when he's out there in terms of what the defense has to respect. I think also there are nights where, I think he frustrates Terry Stotts and the coaching staff by some mental errors here and there, maybe just not always being in the right place at the right time. But I really think he's the one that, if he could put it together, I think he has the best chance to step out and provide things that I don't think any other big that they have coming in off the bench anyway could do. I think he can rebound with some of the other bigs that they have. Certainly his skill set of being able to shoot three-pointers and spread the floor, nobody else can do that amongst the big guys. And I think he can also run the floor. I think he should be very determined that when he comes in there going up against the backups for another team, chances are he's going to be able to beat those guys down the floor, and I think he should be determined to try to do that. So again, whatever it takes to get consistent play for Meyers, I think that really, to me, is a barometer for how good this team could be and really how good that bench could be. If he could find a way to be consistent, I think he could be the breakthrough guy that maybe of all those big guys, could command playing time every night.
All right, Wheels, thank you so much. Enjoy the weather down in L.A. We'll look forward to your call tomorrow.
Very good, fellas. Thank you.